looking ahead at this week, going to Green Bay, going into Lambeau, the Packers. Oh God, I can't believe we're 2-0. Like, I honestly can't believe it. I'm so excited. Because I thought, there was like so much drama over the offseason. It's a new head coach. I'm like, they're almost never successful. But like, so far so good. So where do you kind of see this game, or how do you see this game fanning out on Sunday?
I think it'll be close. I think, like I said, the defense played good last week. And there's a chance they get Bryce Callahan back to play at corner. Well, back. He hasn't played at all for him, but there's a chance Bryce Callahan's on the field. And one of the biggest issues the Broncos had against the Raiders was their second-year corner, Isaac Yiadom, was really just exploited early in that game. He played better against the Bears, but you had Mitch Trubisky basically throwing dump-offs the entire game, and every time he had an open receiver, he missed him by a mile. And I don't see Aaron Rodgers doing that. Although Rodgers has a tendency to hold on to the ball long, so maybe we see Miller and Chubb sort of affect the game that way. But the reason Rodgers does that is because he can throw the ball anywhere on the field from any position.
Correct.
So it'll be interesting. Again, I think it really comes down to the Broncos offense being able to get into the end zone in the first half once or twice. And their biggest issue on offense right now is left tackle Garrett Bowles, who had 4 holding penalties last week.
Oof.
It was probably like one of the biggest stories here in Denver. He's led the league in holds the last 2 seasons. Like, it's a legit problem where your left tackle is costing your team points. So if he plays smart football, there's talent on the offense that hasn't really been utilized yet. Emmanuel Sanders is playing great. Our second-year receiver, Cortland Sutton, had a big game against the Raiders and a couple clutch 4th down catches against Chicago, whose defense, is extremely talented. And Phillip Lindsay hasn't had a big game yet this season, so I'm confident he might be able to, have one of those games.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Broncos are going to lose another close one, and it's going to really hurt.
Well, I mean, like, listen, if there's anything, like, Vic Fangio, he definitely wanted to win last week against his old team, but I'm sure, like, that Packer hatred still runs strong because, it's like in the water in Chicago that they just hate us so much, and I absolutely love it, and I feed off of it, so that keeps me young. So
right. I think the disadvantage there, though, is you guys have a lot of new players and are probably deploying your defense different. So there's going to be things, he already knows about your team, but there's going to be a lot of new things that I don't know if, he'll necessarily be prepared for. Like, we kind of grew accustomed to seeing him do with that Bears defense recently.
Yeah, I mean, like Mike Pettine, like that if any of like the offseason acquisitions like keeping Mike Pettine, and I was a little concerned that they wouldn't after last season, was like the best move that they did because he improved that defense last year. They weren't good, or I would even argue they definitely weren't great, but they weren't that good. But like he really like brought them together, and Rodgers the first week was like shaking him on the sideline and was like, yeah, because like again, like the fact that you could go out and score just in like the first minute of the second quarter and then never score again and still win the game, like that's something that we have not seen in Green Bay since like I've been alive. So that's a really, really big plus. And I think that the Packers have a good chance of going 3-0 this week, but
yeah, I would agree with that.
I think it's going to depend on, how efficient your offense is against our defense. And then like you said, like you have 2 very good pass rushers in Miller and Chubb. And if the offensive line can stay healthy, which is important. Like when Bulaga's healthy, he's really, really good. Bakhtiari is always really great. Then I think we'll be okay. But I think the offense, like you said, like in the beginning of this show, they need to put together a full game, not just like, squeaking by with 10 points and not scoring 3 touchdowns and then never scoring again. Like, put an actual balanced game forward, and I think we'll be okay. But I think it'll be a close game. It's always fun when our teams like play because it's usually a really competitive game, and since we don't play each other that often, it's always nice to see our friends in Denver.
Right. I'm rooting for the Packers to have their first complete game week 4.
And I do not blame you for that at all.